Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock with roll call. Councilmember Tomerlin?
Here.
Councilmember Navarrete?
Here.
Councilmember Aguilar?
Here.
Councilmember Land?
Here.
Councilmember Byrd?
Here.
Vice Mayor Alonso?
Here.
And I am present. We do have a quorum. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation by Mr. Manuel Guzman V. And a brief moment of silence. Today, Arizona lost one of our Congress members, Mr. Representative Grijalva, and as well as to Mrs. Aurora Reese, who was a beloved teacher at the Superior Unified School District, and we extend our condolences to the entire Reese family. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We take a moment to ask for God's blessing upon our community, upon our leaders, especially upon young children during this week of a focus on their health and happiness. And we ask for God's blessings on all of our deliberations, that we be given wisdom to do the best for all who are in our care. Amen. Amen.
Thank you. All right, we have a very full agenda tonight, but what I'm most excited about is we're doing our proclamation for the 2025 Week of the Young Child. I know this year we have all dealt with the loss and closure of our Head Start. We've had a lot of focus on activities. I'm excited to see our robotics students here, and they're going to give us a little presentation. But there will be an event in April to celebrate young children, so we're doing this proclamation in advance. I believe it is April the 14th. I'll have to look that up before the end of the meeting. But it's an event at Bessich Park, and it's open to the public. But we're really working very diligently on some early childhood education opportunities and childcare. We know that this is becoming a critical issue for our community, and I'm really proud of our team, Rebuild Superior, Superior Enterprise Center, the Superior Unified School District, and our town staff, who have been diligently working on some early childhood education, additional opportunities in childcare. So tonight we're going to start off with the Town of Superior 2025 Week of the Young Child Proclamation, April 5th through the 11th, 2025. Whereas all of Arizona's children deserve access to quality early care and education, ECE environments. And whereas quality child care programs build children's lifelong learning skills during the critical years from birth to age 5. And whereas ECE teachers and child care providers are the essential workforce that helps parents get to work or school. And whereas funding quality child care is a smart investment that improves family well-being, strengthens communities, and grows our state's prosperity. And whereas First Things First Arizona Association for the Education of Young Children, Southern Arizona Association for the Education of Young Children, and other community organizations, in conjunction with the National Association for the Education of Young Children, are celebrating the 54th anniversary of the Week of the Young Child. And whereas these organizations are working to improve equitable early childhood opportunities that provide a strong start for children in Superior, Arizona, and whereas public policies that support ECEs for Arizona's youngest learners help our families, communities, and the economy thrive. Now therefore, I, Mila Bessich, Mayor, do hereby proclaim April 5th through 11th, 2025 as the Week of the Young Child in Superior, Arizona, and encourage all citizens to support and invest in early care and education in our community. So once again, the week of April 5th through 11th is our Week of the Young Child, and we really salute and thank everyone who works in early childhood development and childhood care, and just know that we are definitely working on this a little bit more intently with the loss of our Head Start. We don't have anyone from First Things First here tonight, so they'll be having an event soon. The second presentation we have tonight is a special presentation from Catherine Summers on the LEGO robotics program. And we have our LEGO students here, and Ms. Summers, if you want to introduce us and tell us what we're looking at.
Okay, I'll go
Resolution Copper. They have funded us for the next 3 years for this program. It's called the Lego Robotics. It's part of a series of progressions. It starts with the little kids, like kinder to third, and then third through eighth, and then the high school program, which is a little bit different than Legos. It's more aluminum based and design. This year our subject for the competition was called Submerge. Every year the competition name changes. And then with that, they have to be able to do 3 components for this competition. They're always doing their core values. And in that, they have all these sections that they need to kind of represent what efforts they've done in each of them. And core values is really important with them. What's the biggest word for core values that you guys have to learn? That 2-letter word? What? Starts with a G and a P? What? Gracious professionalism. So they're always watching them, that they know how to interact with each other at the game table, during their presentation, and if the judges should see them out and about, and how they conduct themselves. So that professionalism is important. If they are to see another team struggle, their expectation is to go assist that team and teach them how to code, because there's literally some teams who go to competition and have nothing coded and ready for the robot game. So this part of the game is the most fun for them. I messed up, I grabbed 2 innovation. One of them's supposed to say robot game, but that encompasses them knowing how to design the robot, them knowing how to code their robot, and them knowing how to come to the table for 2.5 minutes and achieve as many points as possible depending on the mission. So the missions are pretty cool. They have, and they range in complexity. So they all learned that. What was the first thing that you guys had to figure out, whether your missions do what? Those 2 words. Push or pull. Sometimes they had to figure out how to lift. So we get them to the table and just manually move things, but them figuring that out on how to do that with the robot they designed is a little bit more in depth and more complicated for them. So they might think a mission is fairly simple, but if the robot isn't designed with their motors to lift in the correct way, then they might not be able to code for that mission. You guys, I don't know if you guys are able to move, but you're more than welcome to come see them code a mission if you would like. So Olivia, are you guys ready for a mission? You sure?
Council, we can all stand around so you can see a little bit better.
So when they come to the table, it is pretty stressful for them. 2.5 minutes goes really, really fast. So they really have to know how to strategize. And they get to start on 2 sides of the table. So 2 players are here and 2 players are there. However, they are not allowed to hand the robot to the other team. They have to be able to code it to move it around from one section to the other. So we literally give them about a minute and maybe 15 seconds to complete what missions they want on their side, and then they have to send it to the blue team in order for them to complete their mission. So they're constantly strategizing, constantly figuring out time management, working together. They cannot just assume that everyone on their team knows what needs to be done. They have to teach each other, because every person needs to know where to start exactly. So unless they create jigs, they're going to have to be able to tell their partners where to start the robot, because a 1/2 inch or a millimeter can make a difference whether they complete that mission or not. Are you guys ready for one? Go ahead. Which one are you doing, Brandon? Okay, so are you going to do that for the octopus? Okay. Ileana just likes to. She don't like to do it. Okay, go ahead. You guys talk to each other. Alex, go do it. You know what you're doing. Okay, so Olivia, you're starting for the shark mission? Okay. So they had to figure out which numbers each of the missions were, and they obviously have to remember at time of competition. So that mission, they had to release the shark. They're allowed to touch it because it's in the home base, and then they set up their mission for the next one. So that shark had a second component to it, so now they have to take it over to the base over there. Nothing was touched, but some reason the codes get messed up and they have to adjust. They always have to make sure that they should not be passing the red line. They have to start in that place. And then I don't know if that code's gonna work because we were messing with it. So if the robot does that, they will lose tokens. So they're always trying to get as much points, free points as possible. So if the robot is not in that whole entire area and they grab it, then they lose a token. And so that loses 20 points a token. And then so they'll set up the other missions that they need to. So the other thing they had to strategize was what kind of attachments do they need and how can that attachment accomplish more than one mission to decrease the time that they're going to be changing out attachments, because that minute and a half is really, really fast. So Miss Ibarra will hand you kind of an iPad so you guys can see the app that they're working on. So this one has a lot of their codes for multiple codes. So that directional language is really important for them to know. Degrees, rotations, angles, knowing their math, because we do teach them mostly a math base, like know what degree of angle that it is, know your rotation that you want to turn, or do you want to do degrees. So they're taking the octopus or the creature to its location. So they will get their points because it was partially touching that circle. So those two missions require two things for them to do. This mission we didn't attach because they had to pull them out and then grab all the krill all over the place and dump the krill in that, and that was kind of complicated. But for the most part, most of them were pretty simple about a push and a pull. So this year we took two teams of 6. I don't remember how many we had. We had so many teams. I don't know. Yeah, we took 2 teams. It might have been 10 teams, maybe 1 team. We chose to do 2 separate teams just because we wanted to each let the kids have the opportunity to be at the robot game. Not that they can't switch out, but they can. But it was just a better opportunity for them to go with each of the components of the robot game and all the innovation project. So the innovation project is absolutely the toughest thing for all of us, even as teachers, to get them to think about how to do something with the ocean, and it's very broad. So they chose to do plastic cleanup in the ocean, so they have to think of things that were already done and organizations that are already working in to clean up the plastic, the coral reef. It could be maybe knowing the patterns of the current and just helping the ocean heal. So that was a challenge for them, but they came up with reducing plastic because they realized how much plastic is released into the ocean and all the different areas that it hurts, like the coral reef and stuff. So do you guys have anything else to add that you want to say? Olivia always, nothing, Olivia? Brandon, did you want something to say? Have something to say? No? You guys are acting shy today.
So what if we ask you guys some questions?
Yes, you can ask them questions.
What was your favorite part of this, of building all of this? Yeah, like putting it all together. What was the favorite piece of putting it all together?
You didn't know. Well, the whole thing, did you like the coding and the game?
Competition.
You like the competition?
How long did it take you guys to get prepared for competition?
We have to commend them and their parents because it was a commitment from August, like beginning of September to mid-December. So we clocked in probably like over 100 hours with them. So and we did it on weekends. So Fridays, sometimes we called them in on a Friday. Some days, if we got them during spring break, fall break, we got a couple hours with them, and every Sunday for 4 hours until that time frame. So it was a major commitment, and competition is a very long day. That we're gone from Superior at 6, and we don't get home until like 6 at night. So it's just a long, long day, but they did really well.
So we were proud of them. They averaged probably like 165 points each time, which was fairly good. I think on the average, the whole total game was worth 395-ish, 395 points. So they did really good. A lot of them came with no coding skills, so they really had to jump in and learn how to code and figure that part out. Brandon was returning, Olivia was returning, and I think those were only 2 students who returned from last year.
So we've been doing this project for 2 years?
Yeah, this is the second year.
Good job. Good job.
We're all very, very proud of you all for participating and giving your time, and your parents for supporting you, because that's really honorable to give your time to learn this. This is really, really important. It'll be very important for your future. So congratulations. We're very proud of you. Can we shake your hands? Thank you. Thank you. Good job. Good job. Good job. Thank you.
Yeah, man, far side.
All right, we're going to continue on with the meeting, and I just want to thank again the students, the parents, and the advisors. This is a program that the town of Superior helps to support with financial support from Resolution Copper. We provide the space for them to compete at and manage their fiduciary responsibilities. So again, these partnerships are helping to make sure that the community, that our kids have more and more opportunities. I'm going to move on to our staff reports, starting with mine. Mr. Pryor and I, along with our youth council, they should be returning home today. We're in DC. Mr. Pryor and I had several congressional visits with Representative Crane, Senator Kelly, Senator Gallego's office, as well as Representative Gosar and Representative Stanton's office. Productive meetings talking about the current federal financial situations. We did lose our appropriations for our fire truck, which we need a new fire truck. So we're working on that and have some other appropriations going in for that fire truck. Last week we had our Hive grand opening. How many here have already visited the Hive up at the Multi-Gen Center? It's a brand new tech center for residents of all ages, and I'm sure our robotics club will really enjoy that. I was bowling with the robot ball. I'm not very good at it, so I'm sure our youth will be great at it. Some other points of interest that we're working on. Our NEPA for the Queen Creek Watershed Project is moving along. That project continues to move, and we're very thankful for that based on the current, things going on at the federal government, as well as we'll be hiring tonight in our consent agenda the watershed consultant to work on our Bureau of Reclamation watershed grant. And that's going to help us to identify additional water sources and understand how we can really preserve and protect water in our community. And also this month we celebrated our FireWise designation. We're the only community, the second community in Arizona to be designated a FireWise community. And that gives us educational instruction on how we can better protect our homes from fires, but also protecting the Arboretum. And I want to thank our staff from the fire department and our admin staff for working for the Department of Fire and Forestry Management on this designation and moving forward. And so there'll be additional lessons and training programs for everyone, but it's been a very full month, and there's probably a lot of things that we're still working on, but those are some of the highlights. And Mr. Pryor, do you have anything new to add?
Just that the Panther Bridge is progressing well. It has another month and a half before completion, so it is on time, on budget, and moving quite well.
And I guess another note to add, the new parking lot at the Lost Trail as well as the Main Street rehab is delayed because there's not enough asphalt right now. And so there's an asphalt shortage. As soon as that comes into play, our projects are next in the queue to be finished. And again, the Queen Creek Trail project, that parking lot's going to be very nice, making it much more accessible for people hiking and visiting downtown. With that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda includes approval of minutes of the special town council meeting on February 13th, 2025, approval of the minutes of the regular town council meeting on February 13th, 2025, approval of site and draw proposal of continuation of Queen Creek Restoration Project, approval of agreement between the Town of Superior and Wilson and Company for the Town of Superior Watershed Coordinator Project not to exceed $201,373.20, approval of a funding agreement between the Town of Superior and Resolution Copper Mining, LLC. RCM commits and pledges to give recipient a donation in the amount of $2,500 to support the Superior Youth Council fund their trip to Washington, D.C. to attend the National League of Cities Conference. Approval of license agreement for use of property for Pump Park between the Town of Superior and Matthew Storms and Tanner Hunsinger. Storms hereby desires to create a mountain bike pump track park with the chief purpose of providing outdoor recreation for the public. That's going to be at the swimming pool park. Approval of Town of Superior alcohol beverage permit for Lillian Lopez for a birthday celebration at the Magna Club on Saturday, April 26, 2025 from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Approval of Town of Superior alcohol beverage permit for Patricia Hill for a wedding at the Magna Club on Wednesday, May 28, 2025 from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And approval of a Town of Superior alcohol permit for Joyce Lopez for a birthday celebration at the Magna Club on Saturday, June 14, 2025 from 2 p.m. to 12 midnight. And the approval of the department reports, which include fire, police, public works, library, senior center, sanitation, town engineer. Council, does anyone have anything you want to take off the consent agenda, or do we have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
There's a
I have a
motion?
question.
Yes. Okay.
For item number 4, can you remind us how that is being funded?
That's a
Watershed
Bureau of
Coordinator.
Reclamation grant,
Okay,
for I believe 240,000. So this leaves 40,000 for outreach and other parts of the grant.
okay. And then for item number 6, I read through that agreement and I couldn't find, like, there's no financial responsibility for the town or maintenance responsibility for the town for that?
No.
No, okay.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor by Mr. Tomerlin. We've answered a few questions. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
There's a second by Councilmember Navarrete. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next business item for the night is the public hearing, discussion, possible approval of ordinance number 2025-195, an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Superior, Pinal County, Arizona, rezoning property from the urban residential R15 zone district to the multiple residential R3 zone district. Now, this is a public hearing that I will be opening, but I'm going to ask staff to give us just give council a little primer on how the zoning changes come to council. Then we'll have the property owner give their I believe you have a little presentation, correct?
Okay.
But we'll have staff start, we'll go with you, and then at that time, anyone in the public wishing to address this matter will be able to engage and share your feelings about this. Mr. Pryor?
Yes, this is posted for 30 days on the property with a sign. It's posted in the paper, I believe, and a letter is sent to everyone within 300 feet. It's sent to the address of record, which is usually the tax address on the property record at the county. Then we are holding a public hearing at Planning and Zoning, and where anyone can address the issue. Planning and Zoning then either adopts or doesn't adopt a recommendation to the council, so they can choose to suggest it pass, they can suggest that it doesn't pass, they can table it for a future consideration. In this case, they decided to move it forward to council, suggesting that they adopt the resolution. The Planning and Zoning Commission does not on its own adopt, it doesn't make law. All it does is make recommendations.
Okay. Council, any questions to staff before we move on with the presentation? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and hear from our presenters tonight. And if you'll come up to the podium, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? My name is Alan Worth. This is my son Joe, my son-in-law Rick. We are the ones that are petitioning here for a zoning change. We're all I'm a former fireman with City of Phoenix. I was captain there for 30 years. My son is a fireman with Chandler. My son-in-law is a fireman captain with Phoenix. We have more time than money. We're hard workers. If you've driven down Main Street, you've seen that we've done an awful lot of improvement on the old home that was there. We've taken and cleared out old metal sheds, concrete, all kind of different things. We've landscaped all along the Main Street there, putting cactus in there. We're getting ready to put a gabion wall across the whole frontage of that, which is the stone wall that you put there. We're going to make it beautiful with lighting on that. So we have 900 feet that fronts on Main Street. We realized that that's kind of a focal point, and with that kind of footage, it'd be really beautiful to have something nice coming in off of that street. And so we started doing that right out of the gate. We knew that we could do some things there to be able to win some favor, maybe with the town, to be able to do those, but that wasn't our intent only. And then we also decided that the home was kind of had some historic value, so we decided that we were going to actually restore the old home that was there, which has been done pretty much here already. And so it was kind of a basket case. We've been able to do an awful lot of things. As you can tell, if you've seen it already, it's changed pretty dramatically. And it'll be very nice here in a couple more weeks here as we complete it. So we've tried to be able to come across with our neighbors that, hey, look, we're happy to be able to do whatever it is, because we realize what we're requesting is bringing in more residences in there to that neighborhood. But the guy on the corner there, his name is Brian Hatch, that is doing the development right now. He's already moving forward with it. He's been approved. We are adjacent to him. In fact, corner of my property, actually, we're going to dedicate to him so that he can complete a little bridge across it. So that area is going to change regardless of whatever happens here tonight. And so he's moving forward with that project. I've gotten to know him a little bit and realized that he's a hardworking guy too. And I think it's going to change that area of the town and really be something quite beautiful, because he also is a landscape architect, and that's his company. And so I think that when the people see what we're planning to be able to do between the two projects, there's going to be a pretty nice enhancement on Main Street as you come down there. So with that in mind, of course, we're not looking to be able to do anything different than what our neighbor is doing. What he's doing right now is just a mini home concept. I know that brings a lot of different ideas in people's heads. But if you've seen any of the ones that have been done, like in Flagstaff and some of these places, they're absolutely beautiful. And they're actually really a thing where a lot of people are going in that direction. And it has all to do with the aesthetics of the thing there. So if you make them look nice and you do the things there where it's not a negative impact, you can really dress up the area there. And one of the things that I know that last week in the zoning hearing, I heard somebody say, well, we really don't like the traffic that's coming down there. And I thought, it seems kind of ironic that somebody wouldn't want traffic on Main Street. I mean, if anything, the town needs people to come in there and to be able to shop and to be able to use the things that are there. And again, we are just, we don't have the wherewithal to be able to do all of the things, that a big developer would, and that's not what we're asking for. We're asking only for permission to do what our neighbor has already been okayed with.
And my quick question, you're going to be putting affordable mobile homes and tiny homes, or is it going to be like an RV park?
It's been very clear to us that mobile homes are not allowed.
Okay.
I met with Lana, and when I bought the property, only a month and a half ago, mind you, I met with Lana and said, Lana, what can we do here? I'm all ears. Please tell me what we are allowed to be able to do on this property. So we sat down with her and asked her what we would be allowed to be able to do. And she said, well, we've already approved the property on the corner for mini homes. And I said, well, could I do that? She goes, I think you could. So again, that is what we're petitioning here to be able to do. I like the idea of being able to do like a 55 and older. like an RV park, because these people bring $200,000 rigs in and they park them there and they spend lots of money, and if you just drive right down the hill down to Apache Junction where the Arizonian is in there, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. It's not garbage, it's not junk, it's beautiful RVs with people with deep pockets and lots of money. And I would think that they would rather be here in beautiful Superior with the backdrop of the mountains and things like that, and with the improvements that are being done, than down there. So the idea is that I think we would draw a lot of people up there, particularly with a good development, and I think that we would be able to fit a need there for some of these people who would come here and spend a lot of money in the downtown area.
Mr. Pryor?
Yeah, I would like to address what's being adopted tonight. Tonight we're just adopting an R3 high density change. That allows him to do any high density development, but in order to do an RV park, it would require a conditional use permit, so it would have to come back to planning and zoning and back to council. Same thing with a mobile home park. Both of those would require conditional use permits. So what we're doing tonight is approving the conceptual plan for higher density. So there is a conceptual plan in here, but it is not final by any means. It's just conceptual. And if they wanted to do either of those things, RV or mobile home, it would have to come back to the full council.
Well, even if we requested it, it needs to come back to the full council. If the council requests, we can still, like I read that if we request it, the council would still give final approval on the plan, the final development plan, regardless of what it is.
Right, and the Planning and Zoning Commission did adopt the resolution with that stipulation, that a full design review would have to come back to P&Z to be approved before anything was constructed.
Okay, so if you're talking RV or mobile homes, I didn't hear anything about tiny homes. Is that also supposed to be in that circle, or is that just it could be?
So we haven't formalized anything.
Oh, okay, that's all.
But the gentleman on the corner, he's doing mini homes. He's doing 29 mini homes on that corner lot there. It's only 1.6 acres. We're at 3.5 acres. We don't necessarily want to be able to do exactly what he's doing. We think that there's a lot of other options possibly there, but it's been clear to me, and Todd has spoken to me already regarding being able to do mobile homes. We realize that that's going to have to go through a process. My idea at first, and again, I tried to be able to talk to Lana about being in like a 55 and older RV park where you get a lot of the winter visitors to come in there and do the hookups for them where they could actually do pull throughs. And again, I know the concern, and I learned this here at the last meeting, was that we would negatively impact our neighbors. Well, if you look at we're right on Main Street. The access into our property would be literally right down McKelveyville, right into there, so we really would never go down into the neighborhood at all. And I know that people have said in the last meeting there too that we would be maybe a traffic problem there for them. Well, that wouldn't happen either, because quite honestly, I met with Dallas, the fire marshal, and the egress and ingress coming from that property has to be wide open there. So we would do things to be able to make sure that that is not a problem. And one of the other problems I know that was addressed, and again, I think all these concerns are very valid because they don't know me, they don't know what we're going to do, was that people would park outside of it down McKelveyville and stuff like that. And I think that what we could do is actually do some landscaping and some things to be able to make it so that that never does happen. That would be a concern of mine too, especially if I were down that little narrow street to be able to get in and out of there. Although at the front of that thing, it's wide open. And so we're not trying to be able to do anything there to restrict any of the traffic. And as firemen, we understand also too that we need to be able to have access for a fire truck to get in there, an emergency vehicle, and we would never ever restrict that.
And to clarify, a tiny home subdivision would not require a conditional use permit. It would still require a design review, so it would still have to come back to council. But it would be a more complex process for an RV park or a mobile home park. If it does require a conditional use permit, it does require a design review for both of those.
No, it's the little house that's next to the Harding School. It's that property right in there.
Was it the Bendel's place?
It's the Soci, yeah.
So just to recap for everyone here, this is the first phase for any developer who's going through that needs a zoning change. Because a lot of our zoning has not been really touched or adjusted for a very, very long time. And so now we have an investor who's coming into the community that is now trying, they need to figure out what's the best use of their land. I will share with everyone, we do have an affordable housing shortage in our community in a very, very big way. And some of these projects have taken longer to get through, just like Mr. Hatch's property, because of a variety of issues. There's issues with, land, cost, all those ROI issues. And so this first phase for council tonight is just to approve the rezone. That then allows the property owner to make the best decisions for their investment. Maybe it's, it's a tiny home subdivision. It could be an RV park. It could be, or it could be, we can't do mobile homes, sorry. But we can do the RVs. But that gives them the chance to go and do that really proper design review, go in, and they're still gonna have to do our RV park will require the conditional use permit and more design review. So there's still some other steps in here, and we're at a point right now in our community where there is growth and there is development, and we're gonna see more of these issues coming to council and all of that. Does anyone on council have any more questions for our developer here? Mr. Lane, right? Worth, Mr. Worth, sorry.
No problem.
Mr. Worth, does anyone on council have any questions?
I just have one last question. Right now, the proposed area that, because it's one big parcel, but there's that McKelveyville Road easement in between.
Correct.
Do you know the acreage difference between where you're proposing and the one that's future use on the other side?
So there's actually 3 parcels there. 2 of them would be to the west, against the school there. Then one more where the house sits on, and that goes just to McKelveyville almost. And then the final parcel is the triangular portion that runs all the way down to Mr. Hatch's property.
Oh, okay, I see that. Okay. And do you know the break, because I'm looking at the map and the area that you're currently proposing to put tiny homes, or do you know the acreage, the split?
I would say it's just over 2.5 acres on that portion of it. Maybe just over 2 acres. The rest of it would be on that triangular part. There's a lot of it down on the very southern end that has a wash running through there. That wash runs diagonally through all of our properties. And so that one there, that would never be buildable. That wash would have to be retained, but we would think that if we did anything, that would be a great area to do a retention basin, as well as on the triangular portion, which Brian's intent is to be able to put a bridge across. He was going to come in off of Old Phoenix Road, and then he talked to me, and I said, absolutely, don't do that. You would be much better served. And also, from a fireman's issue, being able to have come in right from the front there, they're going to put a hydrant right on the road there, and they would be able to come in there to that property so that they wouldn't have to commit down inside of the property to be able to get to a hydrant.
At this time, if there's anyone from the public that wishes to address the council, share their concerns, feelings, I'm going to have you take a seat at this time so council can hear those things, and then maybe you can, if we have you answer any questions, we'll inquire. Ms. Denningham. Yes, please, because we need to make sure the camera catches you and the recorder. Sorry.
Hi, everybody. So as you know, I live in McKelveyville, the bottom, and we were hearing all kinds of rumors. I was at that meeting last week, and according to you last week, it was mini homes with a locked bedroom, right? There was no.
I think I made it clear last time, and again, we don't have anything formalized. There's been no plans drawn. I can't do anything.
No plans, no nothing. That's why the planning and zoning is kind of, I don't know. I guess I was disappointed and surprised that they actually approved it, because he has no plans. There was nothing. He didn't know what to do or how he was going to do it. Or I guess that's what I was surprised in this place about. What else?
Kind of getting the cart in front of the horse to go ahead and make plans for
Okay,
something.
I would like to, and I know it's very hard because I think what I'm hearing here a little bit is that we probably need to have a community discussion, maybe a sit down with our neighbors. But I'd like for Ms. Denningham to finish her commentary, and then we can work on answers, and council can also answer some of these things.
Yeah.
No worries.
And then, well, like I said, last week, I guess it was supposedly mini homes. 1 bedroom, 700 square feet, right? with the
Actually,
loft
actually,
bedroom.
there's 630 square feet, what Brian's
Yeah.
building.
Okay.
I don't
All right,
have any-
hold on a second. At this point, because that's what I'm saying, I think we need to have a neighborhood meeting, but I want to preface quickly. This phase on what council is voting on is just whether or not to allow this piece of property to be used for high-density residential.
Right.
So that also means they could build an apartment building, they could build duplexes, they could build other things. But this is a process investors have to go through before, and then they have to bring back that plan. So it's hard at this phase to vote on that without knowing. But I want you to finish your comments so we can have that for the record, so we can continue to bring out good community conversation.
And I do want to remind everyone, as we did at the Planning and Zoning Commission, please do address all your comments to the council. We don't want to have an argument between community members at our council.
No, I was just, like I said, I wanted to say, I was surprised and disappointed that they don't know what they're doing, but it's going to be approved. And there's a lot of questions, but there's no answers.
Planning and zoning is one of the most, and I want everybody in the room to know, is one of the most complex parts of our job as a town council, because there's multiple phases of it. And we deal with this a lot, where people just need to adjust something because they need to add something to their house. They need a setback, they need an easement, they need these things. And so for an investor who's going to do a development, they need to know that they can even change the zoning, because the zoning was this residential. And right now, like, they could maybe build 2 homes on it and add 2 homes. But again, that return on investment for that investor, they're asking for this zoning so they could put more houses or another more lucrative opportunity for their investment. And I understand, we went through this a few years ago with the property off of Christopher Avenue, because that was also rezoned as a high-density residential, and nothing's been built yet. And part of that's been because of economic conditions. There's been other environmental things that still have to be resolved on the property. So sometimes these are very long processes. And so really the question is to council, the question right now is not whether it's this type of house or that type of house. The question is, do we move this to higher density residential so we can start solving other issues? We've already set, the council's technically already set a precedence, because we voted on Mr. Lang's property when he came and did this. And we did this with that, knowing that we need more high-density residential. We don't have enough. And the reality right now, the trend in affordable home ownership is usually a tiny home, a smaller footprint. We're not seeing that ability to build bigger homes at this time. I'm not saying it won't ever happen, but right now we're kind of dealing parcel by parcel as these development agreements come through. And that neighborhood is probably going to go through more transformation, because BHP is getting ready to auction off their lots in Lower McKelveyville and that upper stretch. And so we're going to see more of these conversations coming up, and we're going to do our best. And that's why I'm feeling like whatever council votes on tonight, we probably need to have a community meeting. We probably need to sit down and talk and talk in a way that's like, what can people feel comfortable with? Is it, but we're not at that stage in this particular meeting. And that's why we're happy to hear from you. If you're like, hey, I really like tiny homes over RV park, then I think those are things that, I think our investor here is feeling like they want to make good community decisions. So do you want to add anything else before? You don't have to get down if you have more you want to say, so.
No, just, no.
But it still has to come to the council.
Yeah, the next phase has to
The
come.
phase has to come. It's not that they're just, okay, you can do what you want. It doesn't work that way. It still comes to the procedures. Everything has to keep going
Yeah.
until it gets.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else from the public? Okay, yes, please come up to the podium.
Hello, everybody.
Okay.
So, for most of the people know me here. My name is Nando Fernando Arredondo. So I live obviously close to them. They're going to be my neighbors. So I'm the first house down on McKelveyville. We've had the house in our family since I was born. So I guess I talked to Alan and just kind of sharing my thoughts, I guess. And I talked to Todd here too, so my thought is just trying to be diplomatic, try to get stuff resolved. It's better to work with someone than against them. Of course, I think the property he's talking about, that you guys know about, where the old Taylor salvage yard was at, that got turned into the other tiny homes, I think the Hatches are doing that too. I think it's it's close to ours, but it's a little different because any part of it doesn't access the neighborhood. So I guess my concern, we talk every day, so I talk with Alan about this almost on a daily basis when he's there, when I'm here too. So we live there, we're selling our house in Shola, we'll be here full time. So the house, again, has been in our family since 1972. But I guess just some of the concerns I've shared, even with Armida, she's a great neighbor, known her dad and my dad were like really good friends. But it's just going to be the amount of traffic coming in on McKelveyville. And then our concern too, and these are all rhetorical, I'm not going to argue or fight with anybody, it's rhetorical, who maintains McKelveyville? So everyone said it's the mine, then they said no, it's not the city. I think it's just a huge gray area. We have a tunnel, there's a water culvert just past my house. It's going to fail, it's already failing. What's going to happen if we get more traffic? Hopefully if this goes through, there won't be a lot of traffic coming through there because of that, but people are going to miss the turn. If they turn down McKelveyville, of course they're going to try to go down there and turn around. There's not a lot of room there. I'm sure the road is not up to code. It's not up to WIC code. It's not up to any part of code. The one who's been maintaining it, thanks to the city, I was able to get some millings. I piled them up. I used my own tractor. I've just been maintaining it. It's washed out. It's been pretty bad over the last year since we stopped renting it and I moved back here. So even today I was working on it, trying to get it, just because of the water. I'll have to maintain it again tomorrow or the next day once the rain subsides. So I guess that's just the question. I certainly don't want to, my thought is I don't want someone telling me what to do on my property. I think most men and probably women feel that way. And I don't want to tell someone what to do on their property. But then we get into the situation again. How does it affect the neighborhood? You know, I've heard different comments. I mean, just a small town. I was in Porter's yesterday. I had some people come up and say, oh, you already approved this, you let in your tractor. Yeah, I let in my tractor. So he's a neighbor, he's a nice guy. They're hard workers, the three of them, they are. They're there every day busting their butts. So he said, hey, can I borrow your tractor? It was there because I'm gonna use it for some other stuff. I lent it to him. That's just being diplomatic and being a good neighbor. So I don't know the parameters. I mean, I've talked with Todd over and over as far as what's needed, what's going to be allowed, and I don't know. You know, one of my concerns is McKelveyville, it is not up to code, and even though we can say nobody's going to park there in these tiny homes, if it's allowed a tiny home with a small lot and one car to park there, of course they're going to have guests at some point, they're going to have parties. Where are they going to park? They're going to park on Main Street? Is that okay with the city? So if it's not okay with the code enforcement for the city, then is it okay for them to park on McKelveyville? I know there's, just moving back there, there's not a lot of law enforcement, so it's hard to get them to come out and enforce it. So that just becomes questions in my mind, what kind of bottleneck will this cause at McKelveyville? And then also, I mean, I talked with Alan this morning, he had mentioned possibly a 55 and older. In my opinion, that would be a lot better than, I mean, we all know the mine, it's on its way, it's probably gonna happen. No offense to Nick Cruz or John Tamaro, because I love those guys. We actually stayed at the Buckboard when we were renting the house. My wife took a travel position as a nurse at the prison, so we put our fifth wheel in there. It was great. We had no problems, but it attracts a different. It's a different crowd. It is the contractors from the mine. It's just different. I mean, nobody wants, being truthful, nobody wants that next to their house. Of course, it's next to the Circle K. It's more industrial, it's more commercial, so I don't think anybody really cares. I think talking to Armida, part of her concern is that. I mean, is it part of safety? I guess, yeah, it would be. My wife sleeps, you know, she has a different schedule as a nurse. We don't want sketchy people. Of course, at 55 and older, it narrows it down to probably a more responsible, retired crowd. So I guess that would be my concerns. I don't, this is my first town council meeting. I didn't make it to the planning and zoning because I wasn't here. I was working, so I don't even know the whole process and how this all works. I guess I'll find out and I'll be involved in this too, just because that is, you know, it'll be our primary residence, and likely that house will be given down to our kids, and I don't know what'll happen from there. So that's just my input, my 2 cents. certainly, I mean, you guys can, I'll be at every meeting, ask me any questions or to clarify anything on this too, what I said, so.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right. Any other comments from the public at this time? Council, I just want to recap. I think everybody brought up some very valid concerns, and I think our presentation tonight on the potential, I think that's the way we need to look at this, is tonight we need to make a decision on are we going to allow the zoning to be changed. The potential of the property is really what has to be discussed by the developer himself, by Mr. Ward, and I think what we've heard tonight is that there needs to be some neighborhood discussions, and I think, you know, we can maybe take another step in our community, whether it's our staff helping to convene a space for everybody to sit and talk to. I think Mr. Arredondo brought up some really good points, and these are for everybody that's here tonight watching this meeting and those watching online, these are the important decisions that are going to be made over and over and over again as our community becomes more and more attractive. The next agenda item is purchasing some land, and that's going to bring up other things that are going to happen, and there's other people that are selling pieces of property for a variety of different reasons. So these are common things, and the process is just as you've experienced. We got to go through the zoning change first, if a zoning change is needed. There are places in town that you already have high density residential, there you have all these other opportunities. So that's where we're at tonight, council. This is, at this time I'm going to close, last call for public comments. Last call for public comments. Okay, no further public comments. I'm closing the public hearing at 7:51, and now at this time council can deliberate, ask any questions of legal counsel, of Mr. Pryor, and we need to set direction and vote on this tonight.
I just have one question. When they do submit a plan, is that going to be a public hearing as well for people to make comment on that, or is that just a council decision?
It depends on which way they go. A design review does not have to be a public hearing. It doesn't have to be posted the same way. Conditional use permits have the same posting requirements as a zoning change. So again, it would go through the entire process. Design reviews should be a streamlined, fairly straightforward process. But again, a conditional use permit is a significant change, and that's why there are firewalls set out in our code saying if we're going to consider a mobile home park in this area or an RV park in this area, we have to have a thorough review with a full set of plans and plans for sound mitigation and security and everything else. They're fairly rigorous, either of those, so they'd be a longer process.
So, and what you're saying is, if they go with the tiny homes, that doesn't require a public hearing, but anything outside of that would,
Right.
essentially. Okay, just so that
It would still come to
understanding.
it'd be a publicly posted meeting of the council. It doesn't have to be a public hearing, and it doesn't have to be posted in the same way you would post a zoning change.
Yeah, that's just where there's a different, letters have to be sent out and all, which the property owner, they have to pay for all of those administrative tasks that have to go on in each transaction. So council, any other questions for staff at this time? I'd like to add a quick comment before anybody else inquires. I'm the vice president of the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, and right now some of the big issues that the league is facing is affordable housing, and the legislature right now is trying to push a lot of bills that takes away powers from cities and towns to mitigate what types of homes can go in, and they are pushing the legislature that anybody, anywhere, if you want to put 3 houses on a tiny lot, you can, and cities and towns can't stop that. So the league is trying to work through that to make sure that our legislators understand that cities and towns need to have those rights. They're saying that it's cities and towns' fault why housing is so expensive. And so this is an opportunity for us all to learn what's happening in the private market, what's happening sometimes out there, that these things will affect Superior. And one of the things we did very early on is we approved the casita ordinances, so people can put tiny homes in their backyards, easier to make more housing available. We know housing is needed. So I think, council, we're also in one of those gray areas that if the legislature moves in a different way, And right now, it doesn't seem like they're getting anywhere, but if they do, all this discussion could be null and void because we wouldn't be able to really prevent some of this, within good reason. So, yes.
Can I ask a question here? Something that actually popped into my head here as you were talking was, if for some reason we could get with our neighbors, that they would like to be able to know that we could put some type of a mechanized gate that would come across there so that nobody did go down there to disturb them at all. Todd, would that be an issue for us to be able to do that? Would they were the only ones that had access through that gate so that they would never be impacted and they would be the only ones to do that?
I think that's definitely something that needs to be addressed in the community meeting,
Okay.
but probably not. That's not a decision we can make now because that's got to go into your larger plan.
Right,
So,
okay.
So council, at this time, I'd like to hear any deliberation and or a motion either way.
And I do have the only concern I have is the road itself. Because we've lived here all our lives and we know exactly how wide that is and how much room there is and the culvert that's there. There's no way that you can keep going with bigger trucks or big RVs through there or anything. There has to be, I just want to make sure that you guys are aware that if it does go, that, all these needs are answered,
Right.
So-
neighbors and all that.
So we did when BHP advised us they were starting to sell these properties off, the mayor and I met with BHP specifically on this road. We wanted to make absolutely sure it was recorded as a permanent easement for access. And they recorded a 30-foot easement across this property that cannot be built on or obstructed. The lower McKelveyville has many properties impinging on it that make it difficult to widen it to any significant way. But the upper McKelveyville section that we're talking about can't be restricted below 30 feet.
Well, I just want to make sure they don't go through that culvert, because like I says, there's no way it's gonna handle that kind of weight. You're right. There's no.
But again, those are all things that come in the next phase. Tonight's vote is about whether or not we want to allow high-density residential on this particular parcel. And that's bringing it all back to what we can do tonight. That is the question for tonight. So your motion to approve the resolution. All right, at this time, council, there's a motion on the floor by Councilmember Aguilar to approve ordinance number 2025-195, an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Superior, Pinal County, Arizona, rezoning property from the urban residential R15 zone district to the multiple residential R3 zone district. I'm going to remind everyone that there's a motion on the floor. At this time, there can be any further conversation or deliberation by the council so long as there's not a second made on the motion. Hearing no further discussion, is there a second on approving this resolution?
Second.
There's a second by Vice Mayor Alonso. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. So I just want to remind everyone, this is the first phase. There's still going to be other participation, and my request of the property owner is that you and your neighbors and Mr. Arredondo, I appreciate you. I know you have a construction background. If you could maybe help convene your neighbors and be part of this conversation. I think any of our staff would be willing to talk about where we have to be as far as affordable housing and those opportunities. And this is a very important opportunity that we can all convene and work together on a very important subject. Hearing no further, we have a motion and approval. We're going to move on to agenda item B, which is a discussion possible approval of agreement of intent to property sale of Forest Service property at the Town of Superior Airport and Fairview Cemetery. So a recap on this. The recap on this is these are the lands that were allocated to the Town of Superior through the Southeastern Arizona Land Exchange and Conservation Act, which is the same bill that was moved forward to move the Resolution Copper project into permitting and move along. In that bill was a contingent in the bill that the Town of Superior could purchase 546 acres of property which was selected by administrations almost 20 years ago. So that is property that is north and east of Superior, kind of adjacent to our industrial park. Our airport we don't technically own, and our cemetery, which has always been owned by the Tonto National Forest. And they are very eager to sell that back to us. And that was all kind of arranged in that original legislation for the mine, which was approved in 2014. So now we're at the stage where the town gets to purchase this land, which we can use for future development. Once we own our airport, and I'm explaining this because there's a lot of new faces in the room and it's a very complex process. Basically what we have on the table tonight is the actual agreement. The next phase is making the agreement so we can purchase the land. In about 2021, we had an agreement with Resolution Copper that they would fund a private fund for us to be able to purchase the land. Roughly about $2.5 million. Those funds will be held by Chicanos for La Causa. We are making a loan. So long as the town is developing the property, 25% of that loan gets removed off the principal every 5 years. So we all have some onus to make sure that there's some development there. Council will be having further discussions that, again, how will that land be zoned? How are we going to use it? Where can we put additional housing? Where can we expand industrial parks? Where can we put more high-density housing? That's going to be some opportunities to plan how Superior will look well into the future. Where do we need a hotel, et cetera, et cetera. So we have those lands that are coming on, but keep in mind, the cemetery is always going to be the cemetery. We just get to own it, even though we've been maintaining and taking care of it. And our airport, which is already seeing some business, but now that we're going to own the airport, we can build hangars, we can do other opportunities there that will bring gainful revenue into the community, which helps make our community stronger and more resilient. So just keep in mind that tonight this motion really just means that we are going, this is our intent to actually buy this, which this is a motion that needs to happen so we can hire the appraisers and start moving forward on this process, which we've been waiting for almost 3 years. And keep in mind the town has already annexed this property, so it's already in our city limits. This also kicks off the portions where Resolution has to start funding additional funds so we can move forward on this property. And again, that's why I'm saying we're going to have lots of planning and zoning discussions, lots of opportunity for public engagement. Council, do you have any questions or comments on this agenda item for staff? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the agreement of intent? There's a motion by Councilmember Navarrete. Do we have a second? Second by Vice Mayor Alonso. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That concludes our active business, our business for tonight. We're going to move on to call to the public. Is there anyone here from the public wishing to address the council at this time? Okay, there's someone on the list. And we're trying to make this as informative as possible so we can keep everybody on the list. And Armita's gonna, oh, you don't, that was for the other one. You sure you don't want to get up and say anything else? Okay. All right, so last call. Anyone else that did not sign in for call to the public? All right, at this time, we do not have an executive session, any executive session items. So we're going to move on to summary of current events, and I'm going to start with Councilmember Lance. Do you have any comments, or it's great to have rain or anything? Okay. All right, Councilmember Byrd.
Nothing. I just hope everybody enjoys the festival coming up at the end of the month. And other than that, thank you to staff and for all your hard work and everything that you've done getting us these documents so that we're prepared for these meetings.
Okay. Councilmember Tomerlin.
Just reminding everybody that Apache Leaf Days is 28th, 29th, and 30th of this month. Come on out. It's looking like it's going to shape up to be a great time. I'd like to thank everybody that showed up tonight and came out and spoke and participated. This process only works when we have community engagement. If we don't hear from the community, we truly don't know what your thoughts are. So thank you to everybody that came out. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Navarrete.
The only thing that I'd like to add is Superior Optimist is having their annual casino night fundraiser on April 5th. Hope to see you there.
Councilmember Aguilar.
I just want to thank staff again because of all the hard work and keeping us informed of everything that's going on. I really appreciate it.
Vice Mayor Alonso?
I think it was mentioned like where there's gonna be a lot more of these issues coming to council, and these, the way I look at it is there are opportunities coming to council. So, like everyone's mentioned, this is just first stage of having the access and the accessibility, just to even try to figure out what they wanna do with this land. So, it's a good first step. Doesn't mean it's gonna be one thing or the other. They still have to come with plans. But, some of you guys I haven't seen for a long time, and it seems like we're quiet. You probably think like, oh, they don't ask any questions, but just to inform you guys, we get these packets a week in advance. So a lot of times we go back and forth with staff, and questions are answered, so we're not here till midnight asking tons of questions. So that makes our meetings go a little more efficient. Just want to let you guys know that.
All right, well, I just want to thank council. It's been a very busy month. And I want to thank our staff. They've had a lot of work to do, and I'm excited to have our youth council come back and tell us about their trip. They were pretty busy, but I got to hang out with them a bit, and they were working on they were separated into groups with kids from all over the nation. And one set of the group was working on poverty and homelessness, and the other ones were working on community engagement and how do you address your community and work on critical issues. So I thought it was really interesting, and again, we had a really great, productive week back in DC, and I really appreciate that everybody on the council comes prepared. They ask a lot of questions, and they're ready to go, and we maintain having efficient meetings. So with that, Mr. Pryor, do you have anything else to add?
Just one quick note, the recreation staff is attempting to relaunch the Easter egg hunt at the park. So it's going to be a first year back, and then probably will be beset with all the troubles that creates, but we're going to do our best to get that event rolling again.
Yeah. And I just want to remind everybody, please go and check out the Hive. I think right now they've told us of all the hives, we're the first rural hive. We've had the most kids visiting every single day. 25 to 30 kids are there. Granted, it's been spring break, but we're seeing a mix of residents going, and we haven't been in there. It is a really cool place, and council, I think we'll be having a work session there in April. So everybody can see all the progress. And the gym is almost ready. Technically, we've got about another 6 weeks out, but we have a lot of fun things going on. So with that being said, our next meetings are Emergency Services, March 20th, 2025 at 6 p.m., Community Development Committee, March 27th, 2025 at 6 p.m., Planning and Zoning Committee, April 3rd, 2025 at 6 p.m., and the Town Council meeting is April 10th, 2025 at 7 p.m. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There's a motion by Councilmember Tomerlin. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Byrd. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 8:08. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight.